second word in unrelenting force.
Spells.
Roll
Specific
means
school day.
balance in the
We
dragon
talking
tongue.
about destruction.
Combine it with
Destruction is widely
force
used across
to
Skyrim
focus your thumb or sharp.
by not just me, but others. However, destruction is a very powerful school of magic. However, it has its limitations.
You truly do have
Destructions.
but learning a word of power is a constant practice in order to use it in a shout. Well, that is how the rest of us learn shouts. As Dragonborn, you can absorb a slain dragon's life force and knowledge directly. As part of your initiation, Master Einar will allow you to tap into his understanding of role.
And you cannot.
Now, let us see how quickly you can master your new
Conjuration magic, or School of Magic of Conjuration. Conjuration is a school that pretty much teaches you to
unrelenting force shout, strike the top.
Spiritual form, which can still physically hurt somebody. Sorry. But not only that, you can conjure don't already have one, or you can just have
Well, again.
You can spawn multiples once you get
Each
tier, or level perk allows you to have more abilities in that school. Conjuration being the most easiest and most powerful
Once more.
magic school of magic to and very control.
Impressive. Your thumb is precise.
Conjuration
Show great
is very
promise,
useful
Dragonborn.
for the player. If you're a pure mage,
will
then
perform
you're
your next
probably
trial.
going to use any actual melee weapons. Me, I just have these for later, so I can have them for collection when I get my house. As you can see, I don't have nearly enough gold for that bullshit. So, and I have a very specific armor loadout. I'm not very armored, so I'm very lightly armored. So I'm pretty much butter. However,
Courtyard. Follow Master Boy.
that will be another topic for another video. But conjuration is purely all about conjuring acronauts, companions, weapons, etc. However, you can also dispel another conjurer's companion, such as a Daedra. If they summon a Daedra, you can dispel it. Depending on which level of a conjuration spell you have to dispel that spell, solely depends on the level of that being that they summoned. If your dispel spell is not high enough, you cannot dispel it. And some spells are not dispellable at all. But it solely depends on your level and how powerful your spell is. If your spell's not powerful enough, then you obviously have to dispel it, therefore it renders it useless.
Which means whirlwind.
Now, doing this, sometimes you won't be able to use your magicka for very long. Such as when that little magicka starts to run out which allows you to, like I said, summon a weapon. Now you have a weapon. You don't have to worry about close combat, because you're not worried about your magic gun out for the next 2 minutes. And magic gun regenerates very slowly.
Now it's your turn.
But it
Stand next to me. Master Bori will open the gate. Use your whirlwind sprint to pass through before it closes.
And of course, there is a way to bypass that with enchantments. Enchantments are a different level with
your quick mastery of a new theme is
skill tree,
astonishing.
Which allows you to enchant.
I'd heard the stories of the abilities of Dragonborn, but to see it for myself.
However,
you are now
if you
remain true to the way of the voice.
To have a high enough regeneration on each piece of armor, then there will be no point of doing so.
Skyrim
it does waste soldiers, but we're getting off topic. Conjuration. Let's go back to the skill tree. This is the Conjuration Magic of School. The following spells, and I quote, are Soul Trap, the swords I just showed you, and you can also summon two-handed weapons as well. But as far as I know, I have only seen the axe, but the axe is strong enough, just like a sword, a great sword. And we're going to go over some of these perks. Novice Conjuration, you obviously know it's for a newbie or a novice, in Skyrim terms. Apprentice, which brings you up to another level of Conjuration, which gives you more options on spells and it will affect vendors' Conjuration options. And there will be a lot more options later on. Once you get to 50, which will be Adept, that pretty much gets you up to the higher tier levels of Conjuration spells, and they're very useful and very powerful. Now, Expert, you probably can already guess what I'm about to say next, but they're 10 times as strong as an Adept, if not better. And finally, of course, Master Conjuration. The hardest and most magicka consuming spells, but they're really good. And you can have a permanent Atronach for the whole gameplay as long as they're alive. The only downside is, actually no, there is a spell that you can heal them, that you can heal your Atronachs if you so choose. But just like a companion, they will heal over time as long as you're not in combat. As long as they're not in combat, they will heal just like any other companion. But Master Conjuration is great to have, and I would definitely strive for Master. Now, the only downside is, like I said, it doesn't take very long. If this was Destruction, I would say go pure Destruction only. If you were wanting to get your Destruction magic up, do Destruction first, because it is the hardest. Destruction magic is the hardest out of all the schools. Now, going down back to the list, Mystic Binding. Mystic Binding, which affects your bound weapons, which are the physical, like swords and the two-handed weapons that you summon, that you saw me summon. That increases your damage. That way, because you don't have a way of upgrading your weapons, you can just get that perk and it upgrades your damage. Now, it's not going to be much at first, but once you get higher level, it'll become better. And while you're at it, you can also, here's a little tip. If you want your destruction or your damage and Conjuration swords to get better. There is a glitch. I'd say it's a glitch. It affects this. You're one-handed, which also levels with if you. Sorry, I'm having a hard time explaining this. Give me a moment. Let me collect myself for a second. Okay, so when you summon a one-handed sword, not only does it level the Conjuration up, but it also levels up the one-handed skill as well. I have never used a physical melee weapon. I've only ever used magical, spiritual swords. And that's how this leveled up. Otherwise, it'd still be at 15, just like the two-handeds. But this affects your damage with summoned swords or weapons of any kind. This affects it. Not only does that affect it, two-handed as well affects it. And archery, and we'll get to that in a moment. But all you need to know is there is a bound bow that you can summon. For those that are archers or love bows, well, this is the best one to get, and it's very strong. And you can summon it as many times as you want, and you'll never run out of arrows because you can't. And you don't need to use physical arrows. So if you have arrows in your inventory, you can just sell them if you want. You don't have to, but it's just, you know, I would recommend it. Anyways, now I did say enchanting, or sorry, I did call it arcane, but it's actually enchanting. And as it says in the thing, it says the more powerful the enchanter, the stronger the magic he combined to his weapons and armor. And yes, the higher that number goes, the stronger your enchantments. However, it goes both ways. The stronger you shit. Sorry, yeah, I'm having a little trouble explaining this because I'm tired. The more points you put into that one right there, the more your enchantments become strong. And let me tell you, I've done it on my Nord. It definitely boosts your enchantments. The enchantments that I would personally focus on are skill enchantments. Once you get to this, or get to like 2 or 3, start focusing on this and try your best to get to here. This is going to take a while because enchanting does take a bit to level. It's not hard, but it takes a while. It's quite a grind. But if you like to use exploits, you can use Lydia to spawn in some gold and make gold rings and start enchanting them, as long as you have a big abundance of soul gems on hand. Or if you have, you know, the Azura's star, Black Star, to be specific, you can do that. And it's either way. Not only will you be, you know, getting that up, but you'll also you'll be getting gold in return. So it's a win-win, other than losing a couple of soul gems, but still a win-win. But back to Conjuration. Conjuration, the Soul Stealer, bound weapons cast the Soul Trap spell without you having to switch to the Soul Trap spell. So basically, once you hit them, it traps them with the spell, and if they die, you get their soul, as long as you have a soul gem that can support their soul. pretty simple, pretty explanatory. Oblivion Binding. And this is what I was talking about. Bound weapons will banish summoned creatures and turn raised ones. Now, like I said, the banishing spells, it solely depends on what level you have and how strong the spell is. The stronger your conjuration, the higher the chances of it being successful. But there are perks in here that will increase that. Now this is for the necromancer builds, if you ever get, which is conjuration. If you like summoning undead things or atronachs. This not only decreases the duration, but this also, if you get the Dark Souls over here, Dark Souls, reanimated undead have 100 points more health, more hit points. So your undead companions that you raise will last a little bit longer. Now this is probably the most strongest perk to have if you're a conjurer. You can have let me say it again, 2 atronachs and zombies, reanimated zombies. This is very powerful, a very powerful perk to have in the conjuration skill. And not only will you probably have your companion Lydia or whoever you have. I just have Lydia because she was the only one available at the time. But you will have 3 companions backing you. So it makes it very easy to get, cheese bosses quickly. if you want to cheese something. And not only can you increase their health, or the undead health, but if you don't even want to do that, you can also make your conjured atronachs, which are stronger than zombies, some of them are, anyway, are 50% more powerful. So the regular ones are okay, but if you get this perk, they become 500 times stronger. I might have over-exaggerated that a little bit, but for example, the Daedras. The Daedras are one that you can summon. You can summon Daedras, and they are very strong. Very strong. And with that perk, it makes them 10 times stronger. And if you try to hit them, they will fucking cheese you in 2 hits, regardless of what level you are. And they've done it to me, and they're very fucking strong. And that's on my Nord. And my Nord is a paladin, in case you're wondering why I'm been mentioning my Nord so much. I have him doing every single school of magic. And yeah, that's about it on the Conjuration school, other than some of these are kind of useless, the perks, but they're alright. You can have them if you want, but however, next video I will go over the alteration and tell you why that is beneficial in the next stream. But Conjuration, in my opinion, it's better than Destruction. And Destruction is nice and great to use, but it has its limitations, and so does Conjuration. Don't get me wrong, Conjuration has its limitations as well. You can't shoot fireballs from several feet away or miles away and hit somebody with a sword. You can't do that. You can try using the bound bow, but it's not gonna. You slim chance of hitting. But a fireball or firebolt or lightning bolt or what have you, that will go very far, very far. But yeah, and there's a lot of schools better than Destruction and Conjuration, and some of them can manipulate the nature, like Alteration can manipulate that. Restoration affects healing and undead, and a type of magical protection, which is the same as Alteration, which we'll get to that in a moment. But the Destruction, a school that manipulates the elements and being able to use the nature's powers, such as lightning, fire, ice, and I don't know why there's not a wind one. I don't know why that's the case, but wind is another element, I believe. Oh, and water. Conjuration, you just summon stuff, and you can take people's souls, which is very useful, and that's a very powerful school to have. Illusion, I would not necessarily say it was the strongest, but it's very equally strong to Conjuration. And what it does is it manipulates the mind of individuals, people, creatures, evil to good. You can manipulate people's vision, as in you can go invisible, which is pretty cool. And you can manipulate their feelings, their emotions, and you can tell them to attack that person, and it really works. And illusion's not that hard to level either. The hardest schools that I will tell you right now that are hardest to level is Destruction is the top number one hardest one, in my opinion, to level. Some people can disagree or agree. Restoration, it's, I would say, the second hardest, but that spell is used a lot, so I wouldn't technically say it's the second. I'd say probably it's the third. And lastly, I would say Alteration is the second hardest, because certain spells require a much stronger armor spell, in case you want really good armor. If you're a pure mage and you don't really use like actual armor, then you'll need stronger spells like Stone Flesh and Ebony and all that. And that, the higher the spells, though, the more magic used. The stronger the spell, the more magic consumed. That's how it is for every single school of magic. But yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys like the stream or video, whatever you want to call it. For those that just got here late, I was specifically talking about Conjuration, but I got off topic a lot. Sorry about that. And in the next video, I'll be talking about Alteration. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.